Guys, this is Arkasia, and we are live here at Apache. Hopefully, you guys are being able to see us and hear us, and hopefully, this turns into okay. Now we're live. Facebook changed their live settings, so I guess now we're live, and hopefully, you guys can see us and you'll be able to post your questions here that we can see. I see that we got comments that we can moderate, so that's good. So this is Arkasia live with Apache, and I'm here with Jessica. Hi. And we are board members for Apache, and we're here to answer some of your homeschooling questions. And as we wait for some people to join us live, hopefully we'll be able to see that because, like I said, Facebook has changed their settings, so we'll try and see how this works. If not, this is recorded and we have posted questions here, so hopefully one of those questions is what you have. So let's go with some introductions here. Again, I said I'm Arkasia and I'm with Apache, and I have been homeschooling for 17 years. I have 5 children, all the way from soon to be 20. She's turning 20 in a couple of weeks here, all the way down to 4. We've homeschooled all the way through. I started my oldest in kindergarten, and I was able to graduate one. So, yay, I'm doing good, right? Yeah, you are. Since I've been able to graduate one. But Jessica, go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little background.
I'm Jessica Gonzalez, and I also have 5 kiddos. My oldest is going to be a sophomore in high school, and down to 5-year-old twins to end out our crew. So I started into homeschooling after my son's preschool year. He went off to preschool, and the teacher would make him sit for an hour to do schoolwork, to do his page that he was supposed to do for that day, and would make him sit until it was done. And so before that, all along during the year, I'm like, there is no way I'm going to homeschool. I can't do that. And then slowly it changed to, but we could continually get teachers that would have unreasonable expectations for them. So here we are, and I've been homeschooling now for, this is our 11th year, I think. So we started in kindergarten with him.
Great, great. So I guess we can consider ourselves seasoned homeschoolers.
Yes.
But really, what is that term season? Because I think we still come through some years where we're like feeling like we're not with our game, or we have frustrations, or our curriculum doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's just to give you guys some encouragement that you won't have. You'll have days that where you feel like, okay, this isn't working. So that's okay to have those days.
Yeah.
That's when we go to God in prayer.
Exactly.
So just a couple of updates as we're waiting for some more people to join us. And then if we have any questions, Apache has a couple of things that we have happening that's going to be coming up here in the near future. One is we're going to be doing some new to homeschool support nights. They're going to be once a month, and we're actually starting them as an in-person event. Some of the board members' families are opening up their homes, and they're here to answer your questions, to encourage you, to be a shoulder to cry on if you want to cry. I've had those crying days too.
Yeah.
But so basically, just some support that we are wanting to offer new homeschoolers, or even if you've homeschooled a while and you would just like to join us too, we could always use some seasoned homeschool support too there too. So let's go ahead and get going. Let me pray real quick for our event so that we can make sure that we reach who we need to reach to encourage the people that we want to encourage. Father God, we just come to you tonight, Lord, and we thank you for this opportunity that Apache has to reach out to families who are considering home education, Father. We ask that you bring the wisdom to Jessica and I to answer the questions, Lord, and be able to ease people's minds, Lord, and to encourage them in this journey if they so choose to start it. Help the people to be able to come on board, Lord, that are interested, Lord, and that are needing some input and having some questions to answer, Lord, and give us wisdom, Lord, and encouragement tonight. In your name we pray. Amen. So, questions. What should we start with? How about the biggest one is what is legally required in the state of Illinois? Yeah. We've gotten that one a lot over the last couple of weeks. So, Jessica, you want to go ahead and tell them what the law states for the state of Illinois?
There are no guidelines.
Yeah, pretty much.
We don't have to count our days. We don't have to report grades. For high school, I track grades so that I can do a transcript, but I don't have to turn it in to anyone. Really, I don't have to have my curriculum checked or anything like that. So nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. According to the law of the state of Illinois, we operate as a private school. And so, really, the only thing that's required is that you need to teach all of the core subjects that your kids will get in the public school setting. So, math, science, history, things like that, physical education, health. That's really, and you have to teach in English. So, no teaching in Dutch or French or Spanish. It has to be in English. But other than that, there's really no other requirements. So we have been getting some concerning comments from some of our people that have been asking us questions. They've been getting statements from local educators and local schools saying things like, well, they told me that I have to register online with the Illinois State Board of Education. That actually is not true. You do not have to register. It is voluntary only. And actually, HSLDA, ICHE, Apache is another one. We recommend that you do not register, just for the fact of, in essence, we're kind of giving up our rights that we've worked really hard for. So we encourage you to not register, that the school system does not need to be involved in your home education. And if you do register, that tends to open up a door for the school to come knocking. So that's an option. Something else that we've gotten in the past is, do I have to have my curriculum approved? No, you do not have to have your curriculum approved. Do we have to have a bachelor's degree in order to teach your children? No, you do not have to have a bachelor's degree. Do we have to teach for 6 hours a day? No, there's not a limit. There's not a requirement for how many hours a day that you have to teach. Again, like Jessica said, the only requirement is that you teach your kids the same subjects that they would have in public school setting. That's it. We have some really lenient guidelines that a lot of previous homeschoolers have worked hard for. So we are very happy that Illinois is a very homeschool friendly state according to the law. Now you may get some kickback from your local school district, and we do recommend that you contact HSLDA. I know that my family is a member of HSLDA. It's just a good feedback fallback to have as a safety net. HSLDA is a homeschool legal support group that actually has lawyers that can back you up. And again, we've never had to use it.
No, but it's nice to have it.
It is nice to have it just in case. So we do recommend that. And you can find them at hslda.org. So I think that kind of covers all of the legal requirements. Basically, just boils down to, if they're asking anything from you, it's probably not true, because the only thing that you have to do is teach your kids the same subjects. Now, we do recommend that if you are going to withdraw your students, it's nice to send the school district a withdrawal letter. And if you do that, it's just a recommendation that you're withdrawing them from the public school and that you're enrolling them into a private school for their education. So very simple. HSLDA has, again, some more templates that you can use. ICHE.org also has templates. I think Apache has something on the website.
You don't have to list even that you're homeschooling.
Right. You don't have to list that you're homeschooling.
They don't have to know what you're doing.
They don't. Some people do because they have good relationships with the school districts. Other people don't. It's totally up to you. We just recommend that because you might get into some questions, and then you might get some of the fallback about, well, you're supposed to have a degree to teach your kids with it. So that just is some tips for the legal aspect of homeschooling.
And if they show up at your door, they have no right to come in, right?
That's true. Right? Yes. If they show up at your door, they do not have a right to come in. In fact, that's why a good tip for having an HSLDA membership is you can actually call HSLDA right then, and you can get on the phone with a lawyer, and they can tell you what to do and the steps to take in order to talk to the individual that is at your doorstep. In fact, the lawyers will usually talk to the individual yourself. You can hand them the phone. So it's been a great organization. Like I said, I've heard some stories of people that have just had some reassurance and some safety of mind, because when they've had to use that. Like I said, we have not had to use that, but it's just been a good safety net for it. So, and I think we got the legal aspect covered.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any other questions there, and I'm not seeing any questions. Hopefully, I know that we have people watching us because I can see the little number going up. So hopefully, we're answering the questions that people need answering, and I don't see any other questions being posted to our page. So hopefully those questions are being answered with here. And if you do have a question, please post it. And like I said, we should be able to see it. Again, though, Facebook, you can't never tell. Some other questions that we got here. Curriculum. Curriculum is another hot topic. We have several questions about curriculum here. First one is how do we be sure that our children are getting the proper curriculum for their age level to keep ahead of their peers?
So just make sure you cover all of the subjects
Mm-hmm.
and make sure they have a solid understanding. So I try and watch my kids to make sure we don't go too far into a curriculum to where then they're lost. It's better
Mm-hmm.
to slow down and even if you have to start over with the subject and just to make sure they have a solid understanding. So, like last year, I restarted with one of my kids was my high school was Spanish and went back to lesson one because he was lost. And we had restarted with our fifth grader last year with English because he wasn't understanding even some of the basics. So
Well, that's the nice thing about home education too,
it
is
is.
you really your pace is at the student's level.
Mm-hmm.
Where how fast they go or how slow they go is at the student's level. And I caution, I mean, the end part of this question says is to keep ahead of their peers, but I've also heard people say to keep up with their peers.
Yeah.
I try not to compare my kid. I mean, every mom does this. That they fall into the trap of comparing either mom
Yeah.
life or
Mm-hmm.
children life. But I try not to do that because my child is an individual,
Yeah.
and they're going to learn a different way than what other children will learn at.
Mm-hmm.
So really, that's the nice thing about home education is you can tailor the curriculum according to the
Yeah.
individuality of your child,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes that means different curriculum
Yeah.
for the different child. I mean, I have 5 kids, so not every single one of them is using the same curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice. And I know with you, you probably don't use all the same curriculum with all of your kids.
Generally, no, but I do have a curriculum I like more than
Yes.
others too.
And that's the other thing nice too is moms like curriculum too. I kind
Yeah.
of fall in that trap a little bit
Mm-hmm.
too. I'm like, oh, this is a really great curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you try it and you love it, but your kids don't.
Yeah.
And you have to start over. And it is
Mm-hmm.
okay to start over with
Yeah.
curriculum. We encourage people that, you may find a curriculum that you think is really going to work for your kids
Yeah.
and you get started in it and then you figure out that, okay, this is not working for us.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Don't feel like a failure just because you decide to stop that curriculum and pick something different. That's so important for your kids to know that when you might be in over your head or when you've made a mistake or when something isn't necessarily working well for you, that you can change your mind
Mm-hmm.
and do something that does work. So another great teaching moment for your kids.
Yeah.
See with curriculum choices there. There's lots of curriculum to choose from. I
There
know.
is
There's
so many.
yes, and so what are some of the things that you use, Jessica, for your kids?
So I've used Apologia, Bob Jones, Becca. I don't know. There's more, but those are my main ones.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I can't remember what else. What
Uh,
about you?
well, we've used. I started off as a boxed school homeschooler,
Mm-hmm.
just because I felt I wanted the safety net.
Yeah.
I was just starting off. I was starting with my kindergartner slash first grader, and I was concerned about missing something.
Yeah.
What if I forget a subject that they should have saw
Mm-hmm.
learned? So we started with the box curriculum, and we did that for a couple years, and then I realized that my kids are not box curriculum kids.
Yeah.
They like flavor.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of slowly worked into becoming eclectic homeschoolers. So we've used things like I said, we started with the Becca, but we've used Apologia.
Mm-hmm.
For science, we've used Mysteries of History for history, All American History. We're currently using Matthew C for math. We love Matthew
Mm-hmm.
C. So I classify myself as an eclectic homeschooler because I just
Mm-hmm.
like to pick and choose. So I know, okay, science,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do this. History, we're going to do this. It may not necessarily be
Yeah.
the same publisher with all of my kids. And even some of my kids, they like, we might be having one student that's using Matthew C for math and then another student that's using Saxon or something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be able to tailor that to your student. And there's curriculum out there that you can actually use to teach more than one grade level.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll adjust my curriculum based off of what activities we're in,
Mm-hmm.
um, based off of what co-op we're in, based off if we're doing speech somewhere, adjust the writing, adjust this and adjust that. So won't always stick with the books I necessarily have at home, but they're still getting the subject through those activities.
Right. Unit studies is another cool way to homeschool too. Is we do a lot of unit studies throughout the year. Now I don't use core unit studies for my homeschooling, but like we might be doing some holiday studies like around Thanksgiving or Columbus Day or Martin Luther King Jr. or Pearl Harbor. I mean, we do unit studies like that too. So unit studies is another option. There's the unschooling method. Also, I'm not an unschooler, but I know people that are unschoolers, and that's very child led. You just ask your child what do they want to learn about, and you kind of take it from that direction. So that's also nice. Another nice thing too is your kids can pick the curriculum
Yeah.
that they want to try too. And we've actually done that with our children also. Like, okay, what would you like to learn about this year in science? Or, so they've gotten into, and my kids, when the Christian book magazine comes in the mail, my kids try to snatch it before I do because they like looking at the curriculum too. So, I mean, I've had the option where I've actually let my kids pick the curriculum also.
That's a great thing with Apologia.
Yes.
With so many different books, I can say, what one do you want to do this year?
Yes, with the science program that they have is a really awesome program. So there's some different publishers out there. I mean, Jessica and I have been kind of rattling off different publishers and different people. And if you're a new homeschooler, you probably don't know what those mean, which we totally understand. So we're going to be posting to our Facebook tonight. We're going to be posting a curriculum breakdown according to the style of learning. And then we're also going to be posting a page for you to go through to ask yourself some questions. That's called the Family Method, and I think it's by Rainbow Resource Center, about basically asking what you're expecting or wanting to get out of the homeschool experience this year. So you can ask you those questions, and you can kind of narrow it down to what's best for your family. So again, homeschooling is very individual, which is nice. You can actually tailor to the individuality of your child. So I think, any other thoughts, comments about curriculum choices out there?
I don't think so.
All right. So let's see here. The guidelines out there to know what should be accomplished, what groups are available to help support learning at home. Well, Apache. Yay! Apache is here to support you in your homeschooling journey. Like I said, we are having those new to homeschool support nights. We're talking about having our fall kickoff come back this fall. So there's other things. We have testing every year. We are starting to plan our convention for the spring. So that's another opportunity for people to come together and to get some socialization and just some bonding and get some experience with other homeschoolers too. Some fellowship. So Apache is a great resource. Also on our website, we have a list of co-ops and homeschool groups that you can look into to see who might be still accepting registration this year. I know that there are a couple co-ops out there that are still accepting registration. So there's definitely lots of support out there. There's a couple of different Facebook groups that you can join too for homeschool support. So like I said, there's definitely a group out there. Please join it. Ask questions. Homeschoolers are really good about wanting to answer your questions. The questions that have come through Apache, I've actually had to reach out to other seasoned homeschoolers, and they're like, "Oh yes, I would love to sit down and talk to so and so about homeschool and home education and my experience with homeschooling." So you will find friendly faces in the homeschooling area in this area. So that's a really great thing about the Peoria area with homeschooling.
So even get together with friends and have play date or do like one class together.
Yeah.
Have history together or science.
A couple of families getting together and saying, "Hey, we would really like to do this year." You've got yourself a co-op.
Yeah, you do. And you could start small and build from it if you want.
And I know there's been times that we've just done art with a couple families or music, just things like that. There's plenty of different robotics is another thing that is very popular in this area that you can join. My son went and joined robotics. So there's definitely different opportunities out there for lots of different opportunities. And contact Apache if there's something specifically that you're looking for. We can try to find out if it's out there already, or get on one of those Facebook groups and just ask, "Hey, is somebody doing this already?" And if not, you may get 3 or 4 families that say, "That's an awesome idea. I will join you in that adventure."
So there's also debate club and choir.
Yes, debate club and choir. I know Hosanna Homeschool Choir is still accepting registrations
Yes.
for their season.
I think debate club is too.
Debate club too. So,
I
and
think
again,
so.
all of this information is on our website. So we may be shouting some names to you guys. Hey, we have a question, so I know it works. Yay, Facebook is working. And I'll get to that question in just a second, Kelly. So thanks for joining us. So yeah, debate club. We have all of those websites and contact information on our Facebook group or on our website group. So you can get that information there. So Kelly says, my girls, fourth grade and second grade, have been in public school since kindergarten. We are new to homeschooling this year. For math, would you recommend staying with Common Core math standards if we potentially want to put them back in public school next year? Thanks. So
I don't know enough about Common Core math, so I don't know.
and my experience with Common Core math is I don't like it.
Yeah, that's why I don't.
I tried a program that actually was math is the one curriculum or the one subject for us that we had a hard time finding. And I think that's kind of common among homeschoolers is when you ask them, oh, what curriculum are you using? A lot of them will say, well, we're still looking for a math program. We finally settled on Matthew C, and I think it might have a little bit of Common Core, but I don't think it's totally Common Core. There was another program that I was currently using that was completely Common Core, and it was confusing to my kids. And I was like, it was backwards, and so I just did not, I didn't mesh with my kids. But granted, I'm coming from the background that we've homeschooled from the beginning, and our plans are to homeschool until they graduate high school. So there are homeschool programs out there that are Common Core based, and you can check into that. I mean, I can leave a couple in the comments too. I think A Plus Software was the math program that we used as a computer-based math program. And then I know ThinkWell, it's an online computer program, I think is also Common Core. So there are a few out there. It's totally a personal choice, I would say, as far as whether you want to stick with Common Core or if you want to branch out. If you have a child in tears, I would probably recommend that you might want to take a break or see something, look into something else with it. And that gets us into a good question about public schools. Is we have parents that say, well, we just want to homeschool for this 1 year.
Yeah.
And we want to put our children back into public school after this 1 year. I would challenge you, maybe think about, what this after this year, I think you might fall in love with homeschooling actually. But if actually you decide to put your child back in public school, there are some different things that people have been told as far as what that looks like. People have been told that, well, you can't come back to public school once you start homeschooling, which is not true. You can go back to public school. We've had people say, well, you have to have an accredited homeschooling program in order to be able to go back to public school. That also is not true. Like we mentioned earlier, the only legal requirements in the state of Illinois is to teach them in English the subjects that they would learn at a public school setting. That being said, public schools do have a right to evaluate your students like they would any student that comes into their district if they were coming from a private school or if they were coming from another school district. They would tend to evaluate that. That looks different for each district. Some districts may require them to test, and that would be the same test that they would give every student that comes into their district. The big thing here is to look for things that you're not being separated out as a homeschooler. They have to treat you just like they would treat any other student coming into their school district. So I think that answers the whole public school question, and hopefully we answered your Common Core math question there. We did have another question about as if they were going to go back to public school, should they go with a box curriculum? They also recommend heard good things about a Becca, and what would be the proof of schooling that they would be required when they go back to public school? There's not really any proof that's required. If your school district is saying in order to come back you need to provide proof to us that you homeschool, I would say that's not true. You do not have to provide proof. Like I said, they may have to test you, but you would not have to provide proof that you're homeschooling because, basically just entrance record or registration into the school district like any other private school or public school student would be coming into there. A Becca curriculum, we've mentioned both of the Becca curriculum. They mentioned that this question, the person mentioned it comes down here a little bit further to about whether they should just go with a box curriculum if they're going to choose to put their student back into public school. You can. Box curriculums work really well
Mm-hmm.
for students, for some students, and then other students, the box curriculum is not um, kosher
Mm-hmm.
for them to use. So it's totally up to you. It's totally up to how you want to teach your student and what you're expecting to get from your homeschooling experience this year. Box curriculums can tend to be a little bit pricey because you're paying for the whole year,
Yeah.
and you cannot generally use them for multiple kids
Mm-hmm.
because the workbooks are consumable, which means that they're going to be writing in them.
A lot of them have video lessons to go with
Hmm.
them though that are available for
Yeah,
the
I
year.
know Becca Academy does that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wanting a video lesson or a video program, there are programs out there. Some other programs that we got listed out here from my husband's handwriting, Monarch and Alpha Omega. I used Monarch for 1 year. It's an online program that's by Alpha Omega, and then Alpha Omega is just the workbook version of that program. It worked for us for that year. I was pregnant at the time, and we needed something that was a little bit less time consuming for mom.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think we spent about $700, but that was for 3 students. So it's a fairly economical box program. The PACE program, which is the ACE School of Tomorrow, I believe they're located out in Bloomington. They're also another curriculum. Becca, we mentioned already. I don't know if you know of any other box sets.
Bob Jones.
Bob Jones, yeah, Bob Jones is another one.
Are there others?
I'm sure there probably are out there. You could actually type in homeschooling
Mm-hmm.
box programs, and you will find a plethora of choices out there for you. And like I said, we're going to post that clip or that worksheet that we have where you can actually see what publishers are fit different learning styles to help you also decipher the whole curriculum choice. Looks like Scott's commenting on here. Scott's another board member family, so it's great to have him on here. So definitely, we do have board member families that are joining us throughout too, so you can check out our comments out there too. Apache does too testing too.
Yes.
So I mean, if you want to test your child to see where they're at and if they're learning what you're wanting them to learn.
And Bob Jones does too.
Yes, and in fact, I think we use Bob Jones
Yes.
testing
Yes.
as Apache does too. So there, and there's other places out there and programs out there that do testing. I personally only test my kids every couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and that's only for my benefit as a mom because I want to see where they're at. I don't let my kids see their test.
I let my kids see their own tests.
Yeah.
But I don't show the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like my oldest only sees his grades, and not the other kids don't see his.
See, I have kids that have a little bit of test anxiety,
Okay.
and so I'm like, and they really they think that if they don't do good well on the test, it's the end of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and so we try to just forego all that. But at the same time, they do need, if they're going to go off to college, you do need to know how to test.
Yes.
So that's also another reason why I do still test my kids is because I want them to learn how to test
Mm-hmm.
if they decide to go to college.
Yeah.
Is an option for them too. So, what activities and social gatherings exist? We kind of covered this a little bit already, but we can talk some more about it. Sports activities. Um, we can mention a few. And can Apache have a team against other private schools in sports and activities? Well, we can. We just need a volunteer. Apache is ran entirely by volunteers, so we right now don't have anybody to take on that. But Apache, I mean, I know of a homeschool group up in the Chicago area that they have put together their own homeschool team, and they actually play their local private schools.
That's a great idea.
So it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
You just need a volunteer for it. As far as public schools, with what they require, if you can participate in the sports, every school district is different.
All of them are different.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get a different answer depending on what school district you're in. Some school districts won't let you at all. Some school districts are like, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And then other school districts are like, well, you have to be enrolled half time into our school district. So it really just varies per school district, and there's no laws that say they have to let homeschoolers in. So just contact your local school district if you want to see about their sports. Again, though, this next school year, I don't know what
how much is going to happen.
what sports is going to happen or not happen. So, and then there's also like the park district.
Mm-hmm.
They have in the Christian Center. I don't know if you ever done the Christian Center.
We've done the Christian Center quite a bit.
So the Christian Center is another. They have soccer and
So for this fall, they have soccer and fall baseball. In the winter, if it'll happen, they have basketball. And then in the spring, they have spring soccer and um, late spring and going into summer, they have baseball and softball. And then they have bowling, but I don't know much about that. I've not done bowling.
Well, I know that they also have
Like,
homeschool bowling on Fridays
yeah.
or Friday nights.
And then at one time they did a dad and lads.
Yeah, Dad and Lads. I think that
on
is
Friday
nights. So homeschool day on Friday, no
Mhm.
matter what time you go.
Yeah.
To the Christian Center. So definitely, there are definitely options out there as far as sports. My family's not too much into sports, so we haven't. I think we did the park district when my girls were really little. I'm talking my 20-year-old was little.
Mhm.
We did soccer with them, but we're not really too sports focused. We've been more music focused than sports, so we don't really get into that. But I do have homeschooling friends that are involved in sports and have used the local school district, and they've used the Christian Center, and they've used the park district. So there are definitely options out there with that. So more questions here. So far we're doing good on timing, and the questions are coming through. I'm really happy about that because when I hooked up Facebook and I'm like, ooh, this looks different because Facebook changed. So it's nice that things are going well with that. High school. We haven't really talked too much about high school. So I know we've had lots of questions about high school as far as transcripts and diplomas.
It's another great resource through HSLDA.
Yes,
The transcripts are.
they are. They do. They have some samples on there for transcripts that you can use. Again,
and some free ones.
Yeah,
well,
some free ones.
Pay for your membership though.
Yeah, if you're an Apache member though, you do get a discount for the HSLDA membership too. So definitely, if you decide to become an HSLDA member, log on and become members of Apache so you can get that discount for HSLDA. But HSLDA does have the transcripts on their websites that they offer. Um, and then they also offer suggestions on how to create your own on their website. And then a high school diploma. Now we get this question a lot saying, well, who issues my child's high school diploma? And should they just go and take the GED test? From my experience, I've been told GED test is not a good idea for a homeschooler.
Okay.
Just because colleges tend to look down on the GED.
Okay.
With that. So for us, since I've graduated one, we're working on the second one. She's a junior.
But I'm still working on one, so I trust what you're saying more than what I know, because I don't know.
We just created our own for 8th grade graduation, and then for our senior, when she graduated, we actually purchased one through HSLDA, and they have a really, really nice one that looks legitimately like a regular diploma, has the gold foil. They actually ask for your school name. Something we didn't mention is name your school.
Yeah.
Take ownership. Ours is Resurrection Waters.
Oh, great idea.
So, and then they just ask you for your name of your school and the name of the student, and it's very professional looking. So we purchased. I know there's other places out there too that sell diplomas too. So, a good tip for you for when your oldest graduates.
Yeah. I didn't know they sold diplomas.
They do. They sell, and they also sell graduation stuff too.
I saw the stuff on HSLDA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't purchase any of the graduation stuff.
Cap and gown, even I think.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep. Cap and gown. You can go all out for your homeschool.
Yeah, you could spend a lot there.
We actually had an 8th grade graduation for our daughter. Both of our daughters actually had an 8th grade graduation because we wanted to make it memorable for them. And then our oldest had a senior graduation. So it was nice. We enjoyed it. My girls enjoyed it. So I think that diploma you can make your own or you can purchase. Transcripts you can make your own. You have the right to make your own. Both of us have made our own transcripts. So I'm currently working on child number 2, and you're working on child number 1.
Yes, I worked on mine for my first one a few weeks ago to enter his freshman grade, so it wasn't that hard.
It isn't really, as long as you keep up with it. I just make sure that I, at the end of the school year, add in those. And so you probably don't want to wait until the end of their high school because it could be overwhelming if you wait till the end of their high school to create your transcript. It's something that's nice to have ongoing for a year with it. So high school questions. Let's see here. How do you choose curriculum? We've kind of already covered that. My husband and I were talking tonight, and we have this question here. It says, how do you deal with naysayers who hear that you are homeschooling? I don't want to give my husband's advice because he said poke them in the eye and then run. I don't know. Have you ever had any experience with naysayers or people who have kind of?
So yes, first it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, some of them you just have to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Because saying anything back will just cause more strife.
Right.
For some of them who repetitively say something, then this is where God has us, and we're going to continue as long as God has us here. And then at the same time, when you're ignoring some, you'll get so many positive comments too.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on those. If you're trying to kind of ignore someone or kind of push them out to the side where you don't want to hear it, then listen more so to the positive comments. Because if you listen just to the negative, they'll really get you down.
They will get you down. And I think also just experience of them seeing you homeschooling over time, they're going to see the benefits in your kids.
Yeah, they will.
And so that's a good answer. I like that answer. Because like I said, we haven't really had any naysayers in our journey other than, the weird comments in the store occasionally. But I think this next school year is probably going to look different for everybody because there's going to be people that are public schooling at home and doing e-learning. And then public schools schedules have changed. They're not coming back full time. Some of them aren't. So you might not necessarily get the weird looks in the grocery store this year.
Yeah, well, everybody will look more so like a homeschooler.
Right.
Even if they're not.
So again, best curriculum choices. We really have lots of people that are asking about curriculum.
It changes. I mean, it's different for everyone.
It is different, and like what you use might be really great for your family, but it might not work for my kids. Mm-hmm. So another plug for individuality of curriculum and choosing for your students. And I know that one thing I really enjoy being able to do is being able to teach different grade levels at the same time. And you can really do that with science and with history both. You can teach different grade levels the same information, which is nice. So that also saves you time as a homeschooler. We're going to get to some organization questions here in a little bit.
So we talked about how some of the box curriculum can be expensive, but you can also make it to where homeschooling is really inexpensive.
That's true.
Especially by using the library. There are online, what's the name of it? Easy Peasy, is that a free one?
Easy Peasy is a free one. I've heard things, I think Amplified online, I think I've heard is free or relatively low cost.
Yeah, so you can get it to where it's really, really cheap, or you can go to the other end and spend a ton if you're doing all online classes and everything too.
That's true too. And if you pay for individualized classes, sometimes can get expensive, especially if you use the online option. But like you said, it can be inexpensive. There's used books out there. We purchased a lot of our school curriculum used.
So even for the Bachelor curriculum or any of the others too.
That's true.
Anything.
There's Facebook groups out there. There's websites out there that sell used curriculum. I know when I used Becca my first couple of years, I did not buy it new. I actually bought it used. And what I did is I just got the catalog from Becca. Yeah. And I saw what the books were for that grade level. And so I would do a search. Yeah. And it might take me a little bit longer to collect my curriculum, but
you save so much money.
You do save so much money doing it that way.
Shipping costs still, though.
Yeah, if you can get things shipped together. And Christian Book is a good place to get some relatively inexpensive curriculum too, because they do sales a lot, and they also do the free shipping. They have a couple of different free shipping days a year that you can participate in. Usually summer's one of them because they're looking for those homeschoolers.
Yeah. So they also have the Friday homeschool Christian book that's the Friday, what do they call the Friday homeschool specials or something
Really?
like that.
I did not know about Christian books, so I'm going to have to look into that.
Not every Friday. So it's just sporadically, but then they'll have, say, 10 or 12 items that are marked down.
Oh, that's nice.
Like a homeschool special thing.
So there are sales out there, there's specials out there, there's coupons.
Yeah.
All kinds of places that you can find some. Just do a search. I mean, really, you can do a Google search and you can find some pretty good stuff that are discounted. We kind of covered the best curriculum. I would say is what works for your child.
Yeah.
Because we have a question here: is what are some of the best curriculums to choose from? What works for your child? How does your child learn? Are they a very hands-on child? Do they like to be creative? Do they like to work with their hands? Or do they like to sit and read books all the time and do their worksheets? I mean, your child is an individual, so how they best learn, that's the best curriculum to choose for your family.
Yeah.
So, like I said earlier, I don't, in case you're just not joining us, we're going to post some different JPEGs and some PDF files on our Facebook that you can use to help you narrow down the curriculum choices because it can be overwhelming a little bit when you first start out.
It can.
So be prepared for that, just to take it slowly. And the process can be a lot easier when you take it slowly and just realize that you're doing what's best for your child because ultimately you love your child. God's given your child to you and you know what's best for your child. So just take that to heart that you're doing this out of love for your child. So I think that's the best motivation for homeschooling. Do we have paper to complete paperwork with the state? No, you do not have to complete paperwork with the state. Do not fill out the Illinois School Board of Education regional homeschool paper that they send out to people when they find out that you're homeschooling. That's not required. It is completely volunteer, and we actually recommend that you don't fill it out because you don't want the public school involved into your homeschooling experience. You really are trying to do this because you know what's best for your child and you want to have an active participation in homeschooling your child and what your child learns. Let's see. What else have we? Have we pretty much covered? I know we have organization things. How to organize? Okay, we can get to the because we have 4 or 5 organization questions here. Lori just got on. Let's see. I'm learning after this first week that our homeschooling journey is going to be fluid and to give each other a lot of grace. We are learning together. That is so true.
Yeah.
Homeschooling looks different for every single person.
It does.
And actually looks different every single year, I think, too, as
Some
a
days
homeschooling.
even different than
Yeah,
the
that's
other.
true also. I mean, every day, every year, every month, it can be different, which is the nice thing about homeschooling is giving yourself grace to realize that, it may be different. Who says that you have to start in August for schooling, for making sure that your child has an education? Maybe you want to start after Labor Day. Maybe you want to school all year round. Maybe you want to school in chunks. I know this year for our schooling, we are actually doing certain subjects certain days of the week. So maybe you want to break down your school day that way. It looks different for every single mom and every single student. So find out what works best for your child and for you. And like Lori said, definitely give yourself grace into working, especially if this is new to you and you're just starting off. It's completely different than public school and public education, so it's not something that you'll be familiar with.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a learning curve involved. And so just encourage you that, rely on God. He's there to help you. Trust God.
Every day.
Pray every moment of the day. Because sometimes you're going to have those days. And then other times you're going to have the days where you feel like you're on top of the world because your child got that one thing that they've been working on forever and they couldn't understand it. I know was it 2 or 3 years ago, we chose a different spelling curriculum for one of our kids. And because my kids were struggling with spelling and they were doing a spelling city online. And then they were getting into the games, and they were more focused on the games than the spelling part.
Yeah.
So I switched to spelling program with them, and then we used Spelling You See by Matthew C.
Okay.
And they involve chunking and recognizing blends with the letters. And my son had started that the first week, and he was doing his spelling, and then he switched to another subject. I think it was science, and he brings his book up to me, and he's so excited. He comes around, and he's like, Mom, look, there's a chunk right there. And that was like a aha moment for me because I'm like, yes, this is something, we tried something different, and he's realizing it, and he's recognizing things in subjects that he might not necessarily be studying in.
Yeah.
So it was really great, and pat on the back for Mama. That I found something that worked for us. All right, so let's see. We have Brenda coming on here. She says, in your experience, has year-round schooling worked better with less days per week than a 5-day week, 9-month model? So do you school year-round or do you school?
No, I like the long summer break.
You like this long summer break.
I
So
do.
a few years ago, we switched to schooling year round. And what we do as a year round school program is we do 6 weeks on, 1 week off.
Mhm.
So my kids get a consistent break every 6 weeks. And then we take 2 to 3 weeks off for Christmas too. And then sometimes we might end our summer break as 2 or 3 weeks early. So we might have a 2 or 3 week break between
Yeah.
July and August too. It works really great for us because I noticed that my kids struggle to get into the routine that we had established as homeschooling
Yeah.
when it came to being come back into August and we're starting that homeschooling journey again. We've had our 2 or 3 months off for
Yeah.
break and then we're getting back into our journey. It was a struggle for my kids. Sometimes the retention wasn't as well. And so I just wanted some consistency with our family.
Yeah.
So it worked really well for us. I definitely recommend doing it. My kids love being able to have the breaks throughout the school year instead of being overwhelmed. They might be going through some really hard, especially when you get to high school and you get a little bit more difficult subjects. You can be really going hard at that curriculum, and it's nice to have that break, that
Yeah.
1 week break where you can just kind of chill and do some fun activities.
I've debated on it because there are advantages both ways, but I still like the homeschool.
Yes, there are advantages both ways, and it depends on how your family's set up and what's going on through your family too. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a couple years ago that we used the Monarch program.
Mm-hmm.
Now that program is not designed as a full year program, yearly program. So we actually that year we did not school all year round. And the reason why we chose that program is because I was pregnant at the time. So our family was going through some different dynamics and we were going to be doing some different transitions.
Yeah.
My youngest is 4, so my next one up is 12. So there's a big age gap there. So there was going to be some family adjustment. So that's why we chose that one. It worked best for us for that year. So every year may look different from you. You may want now that year you may do schooling all year round because it works for you, and then the next year you may like, you know what, I really need this break because we've got a moving situation or we have a grandparent that's moving in with us.
Yeah.
Now your family dynamics can change. So whatever works best for your family, try it and see. See what works, and if it doesn't work, put it to the side. Maybe try it back at some other time. Or if it doesn't work, great. There's a new opportunity for your family.
Yeah.
So Mindy here says public schools have a certain number of days and hours they have to be in session. Are there requirements for homeschoolers as far as how many days and hours a day you have to do school? The short answer is no, because we are a private school under Illinois law. We're a private school, and private schools are not mandated as far as how many days or hours they have to school. We mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, if this or if I was talking personally to somebody, but somebody was told by a public school just last week that they had to school 6 hours a day as a homeschooler, and that's just simply not true. You do not have to have a certain amount of hours or days. Now, when you get into high school, you tend to keep track of how much time you're spending on a specific subject because you are trying to transfer that into an appropriate credit. But again, it's still less than a public school, and that's really you are the parent and the teacher in that. So you establish that and you determine what that looks like for your family. So again, there's no requirements as far as how long you have to school, how many days you have to school, none of that. They're in there. Organization, we kind of been talking about a little bit about organization and what organizing looks like. So we have here, how do you organize your homeschool day? You want to take this one, Jessica?
So every day is different for us. Um, my older two, so my older three usually start in on the subjects that they can work independently on, and I'll work with my twins that are 5 and doing kindergarten. And then I get them to where they're kind of working on their own. I can just glance on them. They usually work like by a total of half an hour some days for the kindergartners. Um, and then they go on playing and they'll be in and out with us and at the same time I'll try and get it to where I am working with one and then the other two are working on their own and then that one that I was working on work with he'll start working on his own and I'll work with another one. Does that make sense?
It does. That's kind of how we do things too. Is we actually, I will focus on one student, and we're gonna. And sometimes, like if we're doing a subject together, like my boys, will a lot of times be in the same subject, but different grade levels. So I'll focus on them, and then my high schooler is working on her own,
Mhm.
and then we kind of switch,
Yeah.
with, when Kayla needs me to help her with something with high school, then I'm focusing on her, and then the boys are working on their own
Mhm.
with different things. So it definitely does
Yeah.
vary day to day.
And if there's one moment where one kid seems caught up on all the stuff that they know how to do, I'll tell them, you've not practiced piano. Go practice piano for a
Yeah.
while. And then that gives me a little bit of time to finish up with that whoever I'm working with while they're out doing piano, and then they come back in, and I should be ready for them.
Yeah. Or, your room's not clean, so go clean your room.
Yeah. Or you've not
I've
done your
used that
chores.
one,
The
yep.
dishes are still upstairs. Can you go put the dishes away?
And I have a preschooler, so a lot of times my older kids, I will have them work with my preschooler
Mhm.
for a little bit of time as I'm working with another student too. So again, your organized day. I generally try to plan out my days, but we may not stick to that plan. That just kind of gives me an idea of what I would like my day to look like. But I'm kind of fluid with it too. If things change or if we have a meltdown and we need to change directions, we're free to do that, which is nice. So along those same lines, how do you organize in general? I'm an organizer. I don't know. I'm like a strict organizer.
I am, but then so I had everything set up for our school year this year, and then this week we started Monday, and today I looked and I'm like, there's a pile of stuff here. Like, how'd that happen? So, um, and I'm constantly like, okay, I think this would work better here, and
Switching things up a
sometimes
little
switching
bit.
things around, and I think we need to change things around a little bit because I think it would function better if we moved this to a different spot.
Mm-hmm. Functionality and
Mhm.
being, like we mentioned earlier, being fluid with it.
Mhm.
I'm the same way. I like to organize my school year in the beginning, usually in the summer. I like to have everything organized. I have a planner that I write all my ideas in, my lesson plans I'm going to be doing for the year, and that's kind of our guideline.
Mhm.
We do break it down by day too, but again, it's just a guideline. I don't try to hold my. I want to make sure that I'm free to move around a little bit too,
Yeah,
because you can cause yourself more stress
you can.
if you don't have that freedom to change things a little bit.
Yeah.
So definitely encourage you there. I start with a homeschool planner, and actually I make my own now.
Do you?
I do make my own. I started off a couple years ago using an online program.
Mhm.
I don't even know if they exist anymore, but there's a couple of other online programs out there too that you can use for homeschool planning. Homeschool Tracker, I think, is one of them.
Mhm.
And then I switched to buying a planner through Office Depot,
Mhm.
and we used that for a couple of years. And then I thought, you know what? This is nice, but I could make my own and I could make it prettier. I'm a crafty person and I like to look at pretty things. So I make my own organizer planner, and that's what our planner is for the whole school year. But the nice thing about that is the kids can also look at that and say, okay, what am I supposed to be doing today?
Mhm.
And then we also have 3x5 cards that we write down our weekly activities of what we want to try to get done that week. So that's generally how we organize our school day. How do we store books? I use magazine holders.
Okay.
They're great for storing kids' books in.
I have IKEA shelves.
IKEA shelves.
Mhm.
IKEA, yes.
Yeah.
Shop IKEA. They have some great deals on their shelving system. We built ours downstairs, and my husband has threatened me that if we ever move, it's not coming with me because it's so heavy. But those are some tools that you can use to organize. Again, it goes back to what works best for you and your students,
Mhm.
you and your kids, and whatever works best for you guys. I mean, some people school at the kitchen table because that's what works best for their
Mhm.
family. Some families have desks that they have for their students because that works best for their family. I have a table downstairs that we generally
Mhm.
focus on when we're doing more than one student. If I'm working with more than one student, if I'm working with an individual student, it's generally around this kitchen table
Yeah.
that we do. So it can definitely be different per student and per family. So it's just a matter of what you feel best with and try different
Yeah.
things out. This is your opportunity to explore this year and find out what works out for you.
But it's nice to have a specific place, like to where you're like, okay, go put it away, and it's
Definitely.
out of sight.
Yes, definitely. And that is pretty much, I think all homeschoolers have that one special spot that
Yes.
they keep all of their homeschooling stuff in.
Yeah. You don't
Whether
want
it's a schoolroom or a
Mhm.
school shelf or a hutch
Mhm.
or bookshelf, whatever it is, they all have that special place, and it's nice because it keeps it up and out of the way.
Yeah.
It also keeps it from being damaged. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes my kids do not necessarily treat their homeschooling books like they should.
And if it's in the kitchen all the time, something will get spilled on
I had one of my children actually leave their apology and notebook outside,
it.
and it rained. So I had to be replaced, and this child had to learn that you don't do that, and so he had to cover the cost of that. So yeah, definitely there's different opportunities and different things that people use for organizing and what works for their family. So Lori has joined us, and she says, "How do you prevent burnout for you and your children? My child is not self-motivated and has a short attention span. Not abnormal, but it can be frustrating. I'm very motivated and organized. He hasn't been progressing. I lost my place. He hasn't been progressing through the curriculum the way I think he should be. We have been walking the dog midday to take a break. Maybe mom needs to not schedule so much daily work. I want him to be challenged but not overwhelmed. Our first week, our first year, so lots of new." I think you probably answered that question in there as far as taking breaks. Um, if you think that you might be overscheduling, take a break from overscheduling or cut down the
Another
scheduling.
thing could be like for a math curriculum, they don't have to do every problem on the page either.
That's true. Not we get this comment a lot.
If they're not getting it, then yes. But if not, otherwise, cut out some of the problems.
Because how often does the public school finish a book?
Yes, that too.
I mean, they don't necessarily, and we get that comment too. Well, we didn't finish our book this year.
And they don't send home assignments where you have to do every problem on a page.
And there is some curriculum that could seem overwhelming, so maybe try a different curriculum. I know that's one of the reasons why we switched to Becca, or from Becca, is because it was so much busy work.
Yeah.
Especially their math program.
And see, with Becca, I've cut out a lot of the busy work though.
And you can't do that as a homeschooler. You can say, okay, well, we're only going to do every other problem instead of every single problem, because there's a lot of review there. So, and also, reach out to your friends, especially your friends that are homeschoolers. If you need a break or if you're just feeling overwhelmed, call one of your friends up, your mommy friends, and say, hey, I'm struggling. Can you pray with me? I just need some encouragement. I feel like I'm down. Reach out to Apache. Apache will be more than willing to pray with you and help encourage you that, there are times when you are going to feel overwhelmed that your child is not getting it or that you're butting heads with your child. I've had those moments where I feel like I'm fighting with my child.
Yeah.
I've had to take a break from that child for a few minutes.
And if you can, try and schedule regular like mom's nights.
Yes.
And at the same time, like depending on how the school year goes, there may be a need for more regular play dates if possible too.
And involving dads too is another good. I mean, for us, I am not a math person. I will just admit it right up front. Once my kids get to algebra, Mama is done being the teacher for algebra, and Daddy takes over.
And if you have an older kid, ask the older kid to help.
Yes.
Like I'm great with the math. I can do the math, but the English sometimes. And so I asked one of my oldest kid today to, hey, will you check his English for me today and see if he did this right?
Yeah, involving the older kids because I have a college student now. She's a senior this year at Olivet, and she's come back for breaks, and I'll be like, well, can you help your sister with her math, or your brother needs some help in history here, and so involving the older kids, involving dads. My husband has been more than willing to take on the response. I mean, that's also a nice thing too. Is sometimes there's just that moment or that season where you're butting heads with your child, and you do need a break from teaching that. And so having another parent be able to step in and take over is a great lifesaver.
Yeah, if you have someone else to explain it in a different way, if it's not understanding a subject, someone else will explain it. Sometimes it takes that to.
It does take. It could take another person to explain it better or in a different way so that your child can understand.
Or it'll click with that kiddo.
See if we get any more questions here. I think we kind of covered pretty much all the questions. Preschool. We didn't really talk about preschool. We have a question here that says, what are some tips on how to keep a 3-year-old entertained during homeschool so that older kids can focus? Any information about homeschooling children who are gifted and those who have special needs? So that's kind of two separate questions. Then we also needed to talk. We had some questions about speech and IEPs too. So going to the preschoolers, I had a preschooler for a few years. She's not well, 3 year old. She's gonna be. She just turned 4.
Mm-hmm.
So preschooler, and then we're starting to go into preschool in here. But before that, she was a toddler, and so we did a lot of busy bags. We did
Yeah.
sensory bottles. We had special toys that were
Mhm.
only for during homeschooling time that she would be able to get out and play with. Play-Doh. I
Mhm.
mean, she's 4 and she loves Play-Doh. So there's
Yeah.
times that okay, we're all going to sit at the table and we're going to be doing our learning. So she sits here with a paper plate and she does her little Play-Doh projects with it. So there's definitely different things. I mentioned sensory bottles. I have one here that I can show you guys. It's kind of like sparkly and different things. This is my space one because there's little astronauts and space things in there. So it's just this is more of a calming one, and then we have one here that's like the I Spy. It's just bees, and then there's some things in there that she can spy and try to find. There's lots of different websites out there. If you look up sensory bottles, you can probably find a plethora
Yeah.
of different bottles. They're very inexpensive to make.
And rotate toys.
And definitely rotate toys.
Yeah.
If you have a bin of toys that you may want to do it like a couple weeks at a time or a couple months at a time where you switch those toys out because it can get kind of boring for kids. After a while, they'll be like, Mama, I've played with this for 2 months now. I'm ready for something different.
I don't turn to the TV when they're bored. I try and have them do something else. For one, even for the little kid cartoons, my kids may not like me saying this, but my big kids would be lost in the TV if they happen to walk past it
Yes.
and stand there for quite a long time when they're needed to do
You have one of those
stuff.
too.
Yeah, even my high schooler.
Yeah, it can be a distraction for the other kids. So
Mhm.
probably wouldn't recommend TV, but there are other definitely there's some computer games out there. I know my
Yeah.
toddlers are amazing nowadays
Yeah.
with technology, and I don't usually use it very often. But there's ABC Mouse. That, you can actually get a free membership as a homeschooling family that we use. She could do that for a few minutes a day. I mentioned busy bags. Busy bags are just here's an example of one. This is a counter one that you can use, and you just use those puff balls, and you can count to 10, and different color puff balls. Then there's here's another one that you use popsicle sticks to make shapes with. Um, and then I had another one that I brought that's just colors, and we actually made the clothespins, and you can actually see the little painted brush on there with the color, and you just match it up. So again, with same way with sensory bottles, is there's plenty of websites out there to make different busy bags from too. And it's called a busy bag because basically you just put it in a pencil pouch that you can get like at the dollar store,
Yeah.
and it just goes in there, and that's how that we store them. And then when we say, okay, it's time for your busy bags, you can get your busy bags out. She can pull a bag or two out and play with it.
Nice.
So and then like you mentioned, rotating the toys out too.
Mhm.
Homeschooling children who are gifted and those who have special needs. Have any suggestions, tips, answers to that?
Special needs. I'm trying to think of what other parents. I don't know the special needs thing.
I know that we used to have a special needs night, mom's night.
Mhm.
I don't think it still meets, and I think we could probably get you that contact information of the mom who ran that. I have a special needs guy. He's sensory processing disorder. And how I found out that he was special needs is I actually asked a question about his eating habits on a homeschool Facebook group, and they mentioned to me that he might have sensory processing disorder. So it actually did not even was not even in my radar of associating that. So that's another plug for homeschool support groups and Facebook groups, homeschooling groups is just asking questions out there. A lot of moms, there's probably an answer out there from a different mom out there. So ask your questions out there. That's how I found out my guy was sensory. We actually got him tested, and he did test for sensory processing. He's also used speech in the public school. I know I mentioned earlier talking about the IEP and special services underneath the public school. Public schools are legally required to give you those special services if you need them as a homeschool student because you pay taxes. So they are legally required to give those to you. Most of the time, I know our local school district, it was an easy process. I just talked to the special ed director of the school district, and she set them up with some speech services, and I had to get an IEP. The school did the IEP. There's other places out there. I know Easter Seals does IEPs and does diagnosis. So you can actually reach out to private organizations too. We actually started with our family doctor. That's how we started it. I said, this is a concern of mine. I don't know where to go. And he directed us to Easter Seals, and Easter Seals directed us to our local school district, is how it worked for us. So definitely they are required to offer those services, whether it's speech or whether it's another special ed service that you need through the school district. They are required to offer, give those to you. It's just a matter of reaching out and working with your school district in order to get that. How do we get more involved with Apache if we can find the time during this busy season? Oh, I love this question. This is a great question. Thanks, Lori, for bringing that up. Well, first of all, you can contact us through our Facebook page. You can send us a message and we can reach out directly to you through email on the different volunteer opportunities. We are always looking for volunteers. For homeschooling. We serve a very large community, and all of us board members and the committee convention members are all strictly volunteer. Any other thing that the Apache testing, all volunteer moms that work with that. So we definitely appreciate people who want to come on board with us and volunteer, and we just encourage you to reach out and private message us through Facebook, or you can go through our email. You can find our email on the website. I think it's info at Apache
Central Illinois.org.
Yeah. Yep, that's what it is. Info at ApacheCentralIllinois.org. Or you can PM us through Facebook, and Jessica or I or one of our other board member families will reach out to you and get you connected.
What about signing up for membership? Do you want to?
Yes. Why don't you discuss membership sign up?
So, if you want to sign up for a membership, it's through ApacheCentralIllinois.org. There are benefits to it, like we talked about the HSLDA discount. We have a fall kickoff, but you don't have to be a member.
No, you don't have to be a member of that.
But there's normally testing didn't happen this year.
But we did reach out and show them a way to get involved with testing because we had to cancel it because of COVID.
So achievement testing. There is the convention.
We get a discount to the convention that we have. The convention is still planned for this spring. We are, like I said, mentioned earlier, we are starting the planning process of planning a convention, and we are planning for an in-person convention this year.
For March.
For March.
What is the date?
We did have dates, but we may have to switch them because because there's lots of cancellations, and we may have gotten moved to a different weekend because of the cancellations.
Along with convention discount, you don't have to be a member to go to convention, but you do get a discount if you do. And then also the used book sale.
The used book sale is a good one. We have that in June.
Yes.
Newsletter. We do a monthly newsletter every single month of different activities, or we have news articles. Usually somebody from the board reaches out and has an article. We get articles from regional homeschool speakers. Also, it's a great source to find out what's in the area that's being offered or advertised. If there's a group that has open registration, they usually post in there.
A great way to connect. And then if you sign up for membership, it will be $25 for a year.
For a whole year, which is a great deal.
It is a great deal.
And there's also the subscriber Facebook page too that you get to join and ask questions on too. So that's also free if you're a subscriber. And then we have a directory too online that you can use where you can actually see other Apache members and reach out to them too. So definitely there's lots of benefits to being an Apache member. Just the encouragement of a support group, I think, and reaching out and realizing that you're part of something a little bit bigger. You're not alone in this journey, which is nice too.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of covered all the questions. It's been an hour. It's amazing how you can just have fun sitting there talking and answering questions about homeschooling, lose track of the time. If you have any other people that want to pop on and have a quick question, we can take them before we close here. We are still going to be around. Like I mentioned earlier, the Facebook page is a great way to connect with us. The website is a great way to connect with us. Our email, a great way to connect with us. We all volunteer, but we do try to reach back to you within a timely manner. We usually, at the most, no more than a couple of days, and we can reach back out to you.
They could watch for the info for the dates coming up. That one date where we can.
Yes, the new to homeschooling support night. Yes, the in-person new to homeschooling night. Pay attention to our Facebook page and to our website. We're going to be having registration on our website coming up for that event, and our Facebook page is going to be advertising it here in the next couple of days. We'll have some dates out there for you guys. We are limiting the amount of people that we have because it's an in-person at a home event, and so we might have constrained spaces that we can only have so many people at. So there are limits for that. But like you said, mention going to our Facebook page and finding out about that is a great way. Our fall kickoff, when we do finalize those details, those will be on our Facebook page and our website. Just reaching out to it. If you have a question, if we haven't covered this a question tonight that we missed, or you just thought of it, or you're in your process of starting your homeschooling journey, a weekend, and then all of a sudden something comes up and you're thinking, what do I do now? Reach out to Apache and we'll do our best to try to get you the answer.
Yeah.
So it's been great tonight.
It's been great.
It's been great connecting with the people that have asked questions. It's been great connecting with the questions that we already had ahead of time. And we hope that we've been able to encourage you guys in your homeschooling journey, and just hopefully you've been able to realize that you can teach your child, that it may seem a little bit intimidating at first, but you are more than capable. You love your child. You've known your child since the beginning. You are the best teacher for your child. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
You don't have to have a teaching degree or anything, or even a college degree.
Right.
I have a friend who used to homeschool and she didn't have a GED for quite a while.
It's just, I mean, you've probably learned the material once already.
Yeah, you've learned it, even if you don't have the degree in hand.
And sometimes it's just nice being able to learn alongside with your child, too. I've noticed that some of the things I've been teaching my kids, I'm like, I never knew that. I was never taught that information. And I'm a public school person.
And if it's a subject you don't know, like Spanish, there are ways around that. There's like video courses or tutors.
There's definitely somebody out there that would probably teach it for you.
Yeah.
My husband was just talking to somebody last week who came to our house, was asking a homeschooling question. And I'm like, well, what about shop? Or what about this? And my husband's like, you know what? I think we have a couple guys at church that specialize in this and that, and we could probably put together a group
and
for
think
that.
about the people that you know who would kind of mentor your child in that way too.
And there's older homeschool graduates too that have, like my daughter, she's currently tutoring math with a high schooler, somebody that was struggling with algebra. So I mean, there are plenty of people out there that you could reach out to help you in your journey too. So don't think that it has to rest on your shoulders. I think first, trust God, and that you're doing this for the right reasons, and just rely on God. I know there was a long time. I think I'm still kind of probably consistently praying that prayer of trusting God. I'm like, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like this is from you, and so I need to keep plugging on and give me the courage and the strength to do it. So, like I mentioned, if there's any other questions, feel free to post them to our page, private message us. I know that you can reach out to me personally. I'm on Facebook, Arkasia Cox. I'm sure you can reach out to Jessica. Yeah. Jessica Gonzalez. Friend request us if there's some questions that we can answer you. We'd be more than happy to answer. And thank you for joining us tonight. We had a blast.